On the 20th of April 2023, the federal government of Nigeria issued a circular introducing new taxes in the Fiscal Policy Measure (FPM) for 2023. Before its introduction, the Nigerian economy faced several challenges, including, but not limited to, low oil output, inconsistency in revenue generation from NNPC amid crude oil theft, macroeconomic uncertainty, increasing public debt, worsening budget deficit, high inflation, and low economic growth. The federal government has spent a considerable amount of resources servicing debt from the revenues generated, leaving significant shortfall in infrastructural gaps. As at 2022, the Nigerian government's revenue to nominal GDP was about 3%, and its budget deficit stood at 6.3 trillion naira. In the midst of this macroeconomic downturn, the Fiscal Policy Measure FPM 2023 was introduced. The factors that necessitated the introduction of the FPM range from the need to diversify the economy, reduce dependence on crude oil revenue, generate more revenues, and address the infrastructure deficit in the country. We ask again, are the new fiscal policy measures a way out for the Nigerian economy? Welcome to Policy Focus as we conclude the second part of our topic on Nigeria's economic fiscal policy. I am Lydia Odidiochi. Thank you for joining us.
It's new, it's fresh, it's all about policies and strategies. Watch out for NIPSS Policy TV programs on NTA News 24. Tune in on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, Star Times Channels 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Miss this and miss out on policies that will affect you and our country. Join us.
Thank you for staying with us. In recent times, there have been concerns raised over the limited success in the achievement of fiscal policy in relation to other policies, especially monetary policy. The reliance on fiscal policy in developing economies for the achievement of the economic development objectives in particular, and other objectives in general, has been particularly great in relation to the use of other policies such as monetary policy. While the need for increased revenue is crucial, experts opine that it should not come at the cost of harming the economy, given the challenges already faced by the Nigerian economy due to rising inflation, unemployment rate, and other factors. According to some experts, while new taxes can generate revenue for the government, they may also increase tax burdens for households and MSMEs, reduce disposable income, raise production costs, limit credit access, and create policy uncertainty. But, on the other hand, President Bola Tinubu says the aim of his administration is to transform the tax system to support sustainable development while at the same time achieving a minimum of 18% tax to GDP ratio within the next 3 years. Is this feasible given the current economic realities? We have answers as we bring you the concluding part of our conversation with the Special Advisor on Economics in the Office of the Vice President, Dr. Tope Fashola. Take a look. According to President Tinubu, the aim of his administration is to transform the tax system to support sustainable development, while at the same time achieving a minimum of 18% tax to GDP ratio within the next 3 years. Now the question is this feasible given the current economic realities?
If you go and restate that to the president now, if you go and interview him now, he'll probably tell you maybe he's thinking about 25%. And that's the kind of spirit I like, because he's always, when we used to do high jump in secondary school, when you scale one, they increase it for you. So he's always doing that, increasing it for himself. So 18%, we're probably around 8% now. And indeed, it is said that we're one of the lowest in Africa. What we found in the committee, the Taiwo committee, is that indeed, because of multiplicity of taxes and charges and all sorts of things going on, perhaps we should be recording a lot more than that, So the whole idea is to unify taxes to make sure that we don't have more than 5 or 6 different kind of taxes in the whole country. The Taiwo Dele, the head of the committee, will talk about researches that have been done where in some parts of Nigeria, just to drive a truck from one point to the other, you need about 170 different taxes. People show all of those tickets. Even the people who sell pure water have to pay 7 different taxes every day just to hawk pure water in the market. It may not be more than 100 naira, 150, 300, 500, but you're paying in 7 different places. So what if we are able to unify that taxes? Who is it due to? Is it state? Is it federal? And we make sure that that onerous idea of having to pay so many people is removed. Then we'll get there. So how quickly can you double it from 8% to maybe 16%? You're almost there. Just by reforms, by reforming, alone, and ensuring that those taxes are easier to pay, you'll easily get to 15%. With a little bit more effort, you get to 18%. I think it's very doable in a matter of 2, 3, 4 years. President
Tinubu had signed 4 executive bills to lessen numerous taxes, like you mentioned earlier. And it is hoped that this should improve the business environment. Experts believe Nigerians and the economy stand to gain greatly from these bills. What's your take on this?
Exactly. Again, the whole idea of executive orders, executive orders are used in place of acts of parliament, but they also carry as much weight as acts of parliament. Because we want to subject everything to debate in the National Assembly, House of Representatives, the Senate, and all of that. Sometimes it takes a long time. For example, the PIA, the PIA probably started in the Obasanjo days, became a major issue, was laid in the Senate in the Yaradua era. That's 2007-8. It wasn't until 2019 that we were able to get something out of that. And in fact, before then, they had to split the bill into 4 and start to see how they could get each one passed on their own. And they managed to do maybe 2 out of 4. So the executive order is when a leader wants to achieve something very quickly, he signs them into law, and everybody has to comply. And I think that's what the president has done. Again, the emphasis is on taxes, on harmonization of taxes, removal of multiple taxation, efficiency in tax collection, and in the payment of taxes or no. But in fact, let me even review what I've said. It's not about tax, it's about revenue. Because revenue is the bigger issue. The tax is just a subset of the revenue. So again, the focus of government is on the revenue. Let people know that, look, the whole idea is we want to be efficient and get as much as we can, legitimately, without actually stressing anyone, because we have work to do on this other side, with such money. So we expect that those executive orders will begin to yield fruits in a very short time.
Okay. Now, what would you say is the best way forward in our quest for effective fiscal policies for our country?
Well, the best way forward is what the president has taken. Remember, when you talk of fiscal policy, you're talking about Ministry of Finance. They're in charge of fiscal policy. And talk about monetary policy, you're talking about CBN. And when you talk about fiscal policy, in the GDP equation, the part that has to do with government expenditure and taxes. So the equation for working out GDP is Y equals to C plus I plus G, okay, plus X minus M. Now, what means the consumption, investment, government expenditure, less taxes, that is the fiscal function, plus X minus M, that is net export, okay? That's the trade function, okay? But the fiscal function, G minus T, in fact, presupposes that government expenditure will be more than taxes, okay? That means that government will always spend more than is able to tax people. But tax here is revenue. Because, for example, if you import something into Nigeria, you're supposed to pay import duty. Import duty is not a tax, but it's also a tax. It's a revenue. It's a major revenue for the country, you know. So, so fiscal issues are what they are. The Minister of Finance is in charge of that. We can do a whole lot better. The Budget Director General will tell you that, look, we need to budget a whole lot more for our country. For example, next year's budget, according to the MTEF, will be something around 26 trillion. When you think about that, you know, if you discount for inflation, it's not even up to this year's budget, so there's a need to continue to work on that. Because if you look at it on a per capita basis, it's not a lot. Maybe it's about $100 per person, you know, for a whole year. So there's a need to work on that. We need to take that much, much higher. And if you look at the presidential campaign documents, you will see what has been promised, including the fact that we hope to grow the economy in double digits or something close to double digits. So there's just a whole lot of work for everybody. And I think that those who are working in government like me, just for the sake of God and country, continue to take initiative to ensure that our everyday activities dovetail into the dreams of the president to make this country. The man can't do it alone. Neither can, whether himself or his vice, they can't do it alone. They cannot be everywhere. So when they're not there, what are the rest of us doing to to advance their agenda, which also favors us as citizens of Nigeria? That's the idea.
Now let's delve into monetary policy issues. What's your impression about the collapse of official and black market rates for the dollar and the contentious issue of fuel subsidy removal?
Well, let's start with first subsidy. The first subsidy is still within it's actually a fiscal issue, not a monetary issue. Okay. So, like I said before, the whole idea of first subsidy removal is just that at some point, we realized that, we cannot continue with the old order where, Nigeria sells crude and the benefits or the gains that should come to Nigeria for other purposes are used to finance imported fuel for use in Nigeria. So that had to go, at some point. And the new government believes that, look, they need a clear line of sight in terms of how much money is due to Nigeria. Let it come in. We don't want to hear a story that when the money was coming, something happened, NIPSS spent here, this one happened, and they financed this subsidy. And let us know how much is coming to Nigeria. And any leader would want to know that, and that's what the president insisted on, So first subsidy is gone, Let's move on. But where the real contention is like the first question you asked in terms of the margin of the two rates, official rate, parallel market rate, or call it black market rate, call it illegal market. I don't like calling it parallel market because parallel market suggests that it's at parallel with the official. It's the same. It's not the same. It's not an option. Because indeed, at the end of the day, this is an illegal market. When you're going into an illegal market, you need to know very clearly that you're going into an illegal market. We know that you cannot say, well, and this has to be presented as such. You cannot say, well, government did not give me a job, and therefore I'm going to steal in the market. No, you're doing something illegal. So we know that government may not be able to meet everybody's demand. Okay, and indeed, when you look at it, we are very great at demanding for foreign exchange in Nigeria. For example, this year alone, in half year, January to June, Nigerians needing school fees officially, Nigeria has paid about $400 million to schools abroad for universities alone that we have paid. We're not talking about the pocket money that people are sending to their children abroad to survive every month, or the rent for their hostels. Just the money to pay the schools, over 400 million. In fact, between 400 and 600 million. So gross it up, we're talking about 1.2 billion every year, dollars. And there is many instances where the parents cannot even wait for government money. They have to carry the cash and go and pay. Or they tell somebody living in London or Canada, say, please, do you have money? I'll pay you naira here. Give me there. So probably we need about $2 to $3 billion to finance this new jackpot phenomenon where everybody is running abroad. Where are we going to get the money from? Anyhow, but back to the question. These two rates diverged a lot, and the government has tried to see how we can catch up, with these guys. But you can see the first time the rates shifted again. But recently we could see that it was a speculative attack. And what happened on Friday? On Friday alone, that rate crashed almost 200 naira in a day. On Monday, yesterday, it further crashed by another 50 to 60 naira. As at this morning, it was like 1,100, okay? Instead of 1,300 where it was or so, a bit less than 1,100. So that's what we're saying, that we also should not panic too quickly, because at the end of the day, we all live in this country. We don't want to destroy our country. And our currency is also very, very important, because like they say, to destroy a country, the first thing you do is to debauch its currency. You destroy its currency. That was said by Margaret Thatcher in 1980 when she was speaking with some English businessmen in Singapore. However, she was quoting Joseph Stalin. Later on in my study of currency, I found out that Japanese yen was equal to $0.3, was equal to 30 cents before the Second World War. It was much stronger than the American dollar. But by the time the Americans bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and American military people occupied Japan at the aftermath of the war, and Japan was destroyed, it was the Americans that devalued the Japanese yen to 360, equals to $1. So devaluation is an instrument of conquest. Nobody should do that, especially in that drastic manner, except they want to destroy a country. You can see that, however, the Japanese got out of it. But today, from that 360, the Japanese currency went down to 600 to $1. But today, it's back to about 140, 114, thereabout. So in terms of devaluing currency, we should avoid, some of the shallow analysis. Your devaluation, if it's meant to drive your export, must be strategic in nature. Don't just get pushed down the cliff. Because look at the way the Naira was going. And people were saying, oh, it's the end of Nigeria. Nigeria is finished. Oh, these countries, gone. And then overnight, the thing gained 200. What's the explanation? We shouldn't allow our primordial feelings, political affiliation, tribal, religious, personal hatred, all sorts of things, got into our economic analysis and made people who are supposed to be educated push their country in that way, not giving a damn. In another instance, we saw a certain clip where somebody was saying, begging his friends abroad and say, please, don't send dollar to that country. We want them to suffer. Don't send dollar. It's better you keep your dollar in America or wherever. If you want to send money, find someone to give them naira at home. That dollar that country needs so much, make sure you don't give them. For what? So I believe that we're still observing. We'll see how all of that goes. But the government does have some strategies. And if you talk to the central bank governor today, he's a bit taciturn. He may not talk to you, but they have some serious plans. And who knows? Maybe the naira will revalue to 500 naira or more to the dollar. Yeah, why not if not? Like I said, devaluation must be strategic. It also must drive local production, so that again, we're back to what we said earlier on. Nigeria must produce its own things, our own textile, our own apparel. Do you know how much we spend importing apparel? The other time I was in Benin, I don't know where you're from, but I was in Benin City, I was driving around, and Benin City, Airport Road, Ring Road, Akpakwava, they are very famous for one thing. You see a lot of mannequins, women mannequins, dressed up in very colorful clothes, all over the place. And then you ask yourself, none of that was made in Nigeria. So our apparel, sewn clothes, even the Okrika market, where the America and Co., they send them here in bales, and they're very serious about that business. And a lot of that maybe belong to people who are dead in America, and they don't waste anything. They just bunch them up, sell them by the kilos, and by the time it gets here, we begin to sort which one is good, which one is not good, and all of that. It's good business. However, that's also billions of dollars that we spend on that, and that's what closed most of our people today, because we lost the war on textile. And the war on textile is a very important war. Mahatma Gandhi actually lived and died for the textile industry in India, and not only India. India now later become India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Now these guys, this is the headquarters of textile in the world today. So the war that he fought up to 1947, thereabout, has paid off, because as at that time, the British was using Scotland to dump clothes on India. And they had all these mills in India. So again, I'm talking about history now. So you cannot interpret today's economics without going back into history. So I will always encourage our people. The study of economic history is long dead. Nobody thinks about it. We always talk about scientific formulas and so on, but I think we have a lot to gain.
In your opinion, sir, what do you think are the causes of the current rising inflationary pressure in Nigeria?
Well, in order to know what causes inflation, you have to look at the different components, okay? So a lot of our inflation is coming from the supply side, okay? A lot of it, not everything, in terms of, when companies have to increase prices as a result of meeting up, when they want to meet up to their costs. So if cost of doing business for a company increases, maybe the cost of getting inputs, or for example, this foreign exchange thing, they have to get foreign exchange at much higher rates, then they find a way of passing it to the people. That is inflation, number one. Number two, there's also what is called seller's inflation. In America and elsewhere, and also in Nigeria, but we haven't done that research that much yet. I've been pushing it. But they found out that sellers of goods, manufacturers and co., they have found a way of always covering up their increased cost by pushing it to the cost to public, pushing it to the final consumer, but also adding money on top of that and making extra profit. That's called seller's inflation. And when you have that, and you're making extra profit, and that's why they found out that many manufacturing companies, including service providers like banks, were able to declare mega profits, even as people are complaining. And if you look at Nigeria, we also have instances like that. Some of our banks have declared some world record profits in recent times, And, so therefore, what to do? So they realize that they have to keep dialoguing with these manufacturers and also checking them and say, listen, you know what, if you pass this on, in fact, the next thing that happens is when they pass it on to the final consumer, those who are working in organized companies will start to demand for increase in salary, those who can demand. For example, government workers will say, we need to increase minimum wage. They put government under pressure. But what about those who don't have such? So that means that you're actually widening income inequality. If those who work for government can get better salary, those who work for bank can get better salary, what about the artisan? And in Nigeria here, we don't even think about those guys. So that's one of the things we will have to do, So there are different places inflation comes from. Part of our inflation is also from the interventions that we have done in recent past, some of the activities of central bank, all of the monies that we are giving to people without it backed up by work, all of those COVID spending that went out and all of that. Those are the things driving inflation. So in order to stop it or to slow it down, we have to look at each of them. I would recommend that we look very seriously at sellers' inflation. But the problem with inflation is that when it comes, sometimes it feeds itself like a Frankenstein monster. If the Bureau for Statistics says, oh, inflation is 25%, everybody will now go back and adjust their prices. In adjusting your price, the next time it will be 26%. You say, oh, wow, it's 26%. You go back and at what point is it going to stop? So that's it. So we must look at every component where inflation is coming from. We know that foreign exchange is an issue, but now if you look at what has happened with foreign exchange, even though manufacturers, many of them would say they get their money from black market when they want to go and import, which is not true. Most of their money is got from official sources. The black market cannot sustain, the kind of importation that when you work in banks, and I've worked in a bank, you will see the heavy transactions on import that Nigeria does. Billions of dollars every month. You can't take those kind of transactions into the black market. Nobody will be able to fund you.
The effects of inflation on the purchasing power of Nigerians is unprecedented. What immediate measures is the government taking to stem the tide of inflation in the country?
Beyond just getting the numbers out, I believe the government is also looking at some of these issues, looking at how to tackle them when they occur, looking at sellers' inflation, interacting with unions and so on. And one of our biggest component of inflation is food inflation. And I think the government, President Tinubu, declared a war on food insecurity. And that's one way by which the government intends to tackle, to say, okay, because last food inflation was 30.64%. And that's significant. And you cannot have that happening every time. Now, one of the things the president intends to do is also bring in cooperatives, okay? Bring back cooperatives. When I was growing up to 1986, we used to have cooperatives around cash crops. But when we went into SAP, we jettisoned that. We were told to jettison cooperatives. But I can assure you that it's like our farmers are not getting the best deal. So they need to come together. And the president believes that they need to come together to form cooperatives so that they can get better pricing. Because what happens now is that there are middlemen. The middleman is what is what causes the price of gari to be more expensive in the market. The extra money is not necessarily going to the people selling the cassava in the farm or the women. Those women don't have much bargaining power. Many of them, they are illiterate, they are just struggling, So, but when the middleman buys from them, and he takes to the market, he can add his own extra profit because the middleman is more aware. In some of the areas in Nigeria, the middlemen are even foreigners in this country. I won't mention the countries where they come from, but they're the ones going to the last government of Buhari said they were going to institute a certain limit to how much crops can be bought from the farm gate, meaning that you don't just go to a farmer and say, look, I'll buy everything you have for 100,000. Now, 100,000 can be a big deal to a local poor farmer. But you see, that 100,000 is, when he sells everything, he has to wait for maybe 6 months or 9 months before getting any other money because he has to go back to plant, weed, tend, harvest, and then you show up and you buy it for 100,000. And when you're buying for 100,000, you're the one marking up prices here. By the time it gets to the market, you say it's 250,000. The government intended to protect them. And the Tinubu government also intends to continue with that policy. I even realized lately there was another scary phenomenon. We have very enlightened people doing this. In some markets, I understand there's a company in Ibadan that what they do, they supply market women with whatever it is they want, maybe tomatoes or whatever. They supply it on credit. And so the market woman always has something to sell. She's selling at small margins. But the price, the extra, because this company is not Father Christmas. They've added a lot of price from being able to aggregate, buying in bulk here, selling in bits to these market women on credit. The market woman is happy that at least she's getting something to sell. They have put in place ways of collecting their money back from those women, even if they have to destroy her business, they don't care. This is a new phenomenon going on in Nigeria. It's supposed to be an innovation, and they can also use ill-gotten wealth, corrupt money, money laundering, to buy these things in the market, supply to these market women, and a way of laundering the money and getting it out. So the government is also aware of all of this, and the government, I believe, we are going to be able to tackle some of these issues.
What about price control? Who is responsible for regulating price control in the country?
Price control, the thing is that when you mention price control, it evokes some idea of maybe socialism or military government, So you don't want to do price control, but you can be strategic about it. What I told you earlier in terms of the seller's inflation, which they are even using in America today, and that's why they were able to reduce their inflation from about 9%, it's gone to 3.7%. Europe, also, some parts of Europe, they're using it just by being intelligent. Inflation is not what you just collate and announce and go to sleep. Because when you collate, announce, and go to sleep, as you announce, people are panicking. And when people panic, inflation goes up further. So when you collate and announce, rather than go to sleep, you have to look at where is this coming from, and you have to engage. So the only way you reduce inflation is actively engaging with the market. So you see, that's the thing. So psychology, sociology, all of that creeps into economics. That is psychology, that is sociology, groupthink, okay? Creeps into economics. So, but demand has increased its prices, and that has impacted on the common man who doesn't know anything about it. So, who's talking to that person? So we need to continue to engage, to say, okay, please, let's take it easy on ourselves. Paint a picture of a glorious future. This is the era of renewed hope. I believe that the more bitter of the pills have already been swallowed. Fuel subsidy removal, bitter pill, swallowed already. It doesn't have to continue driving inflation. If somebody says that is continuing to drive inflation, that is false economics. That is wrong. You can drive it 1 month, 2 months, but not continually.
Finally, given the fact that about 96% of the country's revenue is currently used in servicing debt, what innovative ways is the government exploring to generate massive revenue for development purposes?
Simple. If we're able to double our revenue, that 96% will become what? 48%. And if it's 48%, every Nigerian will smile. So the trick is double the revenue. And you know what? Yeah. Now, if Governor Wike, who is now Minister of Abuja, intends to triple his revenue this year, and people are responding, people are paying. Every vacant lot in this town, everybody is looking in the newspaper, say, my plot number is there. Let me go and pay this man. If every state governor can do that, do you know that that will free up a lot of resources even for federal? If state governments can also generate their own. It's also part of it. The debt we're talking about that we're servicing, state government debt is inside. That means that they too should pay up their own share of the debt servicing. There are some people, minimum wage, are not taxed. You're not supposed to be taxed, even though in the committee they realize that some states were still taxing minimum wage people. You shouldn't tax minimum wage people. But if government says that 50,000 and below, we're going to tax you by collecting small something from you, the committee has said that they should increase that barrier to maybe about 80,000 naira. So that committee is not about more tax, it's about less taxes. And so if everybody does the right thing, this country will smile. And I believe we have everything it takes, the brightest of mind, good intentions on the part of the president and his vice, good policies that we can implement, ideas coming out from everywhere, an open mind on the part of government to absorb even more ideas, even if they're coming from opposition anywhere. Now is the time to work, and time is nobody's friend. Time is the biggest enemy, and I believe that we will achieve a lot by God's grace.
Thank you so much, sir. We hope one day you come to NIPSS.
Yes.
So we can add the M&I.
Yeah, maybe, indeed. I look forward to that.
That's it on this segment. The program continues. Thank you for staying with us.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
Multiple taxation has caused a lot of damages. That issue needs serious attention. So I think the government should step up their effort on that direction. You know, taxes are in categories, and if we say they should create a single agency, perhaps the state government may have a different agent, the local government will have a different agency, and also the federal government. So doing that sincerely is not going to be effective. Yes.
What do you think we should?
The Constitution should be very clear about who is saddled with which responsibility and which particular tax they should be collecting. So there should be clear-cut directive on who is to take which tax and to which extent. Yes.
The government should stick to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that states the category of taxes that are to be collected by each organ of government. Like the local government administration in Nigeria, I think they are the leading causes of multiple taxation in the country. You will see different checkpoints of the same people collecting different taxes. Let's take for example, when a farmer harvests a product that is bringing to the farm, before leaving his village, you are going to see local government tax collectors collecting taxes. If you reach to another community, you will see the same people, and before even getting access to the market, you keep seeing different bodies collecting taxes. I think this is one of the factors that is killing us. Then when it comes to this value-added tax, I think the value-added tax administration that keep changing, fluctuating from almost 5% now to almost 7.5%, I think is also going to kill infant industries in this country, whereby a lot of countries are trying to survive. We just come out from the COVID-19 recession. We are now having this effect of subsidy removal. A lot of infant industry are finding it difficult to survive. So the government, the federal government, through the FIRS, they should focus through the payee and also their corporate tax. That's the company income tax, the petroleum profit tax, which is mostly collected by them. Then this withholding tax too. Then the state should also focus on payee and also their own category of tax. I think if all these three tiers of government stick to the particular tax they are supposed to collect, I think we are going to get somewhere as a people in this country. And three tiers of government stick to the particular tax they are supposed to collect, I think we are going to get somewhere as a people in this country.
Okay. Still talking about multiple taxation.
Yes.
Do you think creating a single agency where these taxes will be paid at once will be helpful?
Now, I think this is another discussion, if you ask me, for another day, because I have interest in taxation. I also interest in policy making when it comes to formulation of interest in Nigeria. Now, let me tell you something. You know, a lot of people keep thinking as if Nigeria have a good policy, but it's the implementation that is the problem. Any policy that is good, I believe to be implemented is not going to be a problem. Now, What is the synergy between the federal government, the state government, and the local government when it comes to tax collection administration in Nigeria? I think there is a wide range of gap. So for us to get it right, for us to have a single agency that will administer taxes at all levels, we need to educate our collectors. We need to have a strong institution, because without a strong institution, I don't think we are getting anywhere. So the government of Nigeria need to have.
Keep watching.
Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
Director General, National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS, Professor Ayo Motayo, and his management team, to extend the hand of fellowship and to request for ways to encourage partnerships to foster fruitful relationship.
We want to thank you for opening your doors at all times to the media. We felt we can also seek areas of further collaboration. And so we'll continue to sensitize our members that instead of going the other way, we will seek better ways of collaborating and to ensure that if the Institute succeeds, we are also succeeding as Nigerians.
Welcoming the delegation to the Institute, the DG urged the correspondent chapel to use the power of the media for attitudinal change, promote leadership, skills, and capacity building.
I'm sure you have been relating with the Institute for a long time, and you know that wearing the yellow badge is not an easy thing. When I see people wearing the yellow badge, I always pay respect. My participants are fond of saying that, DG, after your tenure, we want you to come and see how easy it is to wear that yellow badge. I'm not, I think I'm an old man, I've passed that stage now. There is need for what we call developmental journalism, need to report correctly what is going on in government and let government tell its own side of the story. I want you to be a partner with us, and I'm sure we will get somewhere together.
Professor Omotayo announced the launch of NIPSS Policy TV, which is aimed at creating awareness among Nigerians on policies, strategies, and their implementation.
Because in NIPSS Policy TV, our problem is about, our focus is on policies and strategies for implementing them.
He appreciated the management of the Nigerian Television Authority (NTA) for their support towards the realization of NIPSS Policy TV. Lydia Odije-Ochi for NIPSS Policy TV.
Now, sir, I want to deviate into you as being a former participant of the National Institute. What has been your experience so far?
Thank you very much. Okay, looking back, I came to the National Institute February 2015 as member of Senior Executive Course 37. And as fate will have it, I later became the Monitor General for the Senior Executive Course 37, 2015. And then by November, we graduated and were awarded the yellow badge, like the DG calls it, yellow badge. And I will tell you, I'm a proud alma mater of this great think tank, and I remain so. I remain grateful to the Almighty God for the great privilege He gave me to be a participant of this great institute. And it has been a wonderful experience, especially when I came here. I was green, about so many things. And then after passing through the senior executive course, it has never been the same again. When I got back to after living here in November, I was appointed to the Naval Headquarters. And any paper I write and do, once they pass it on, they say, who wrote this? It's Captain Adesubi. I'll go and call him. Where did you get this? I said, well, this is one of the teachings from the National Institute. The camaraderie among all distinguished MNIs. I can tell you that it's a wonderful, anywhere you are, I'm talking of the entire country, because after living here, I've served in different states. Once my yellow badge is on, somebody hug you. You're from the National Institute. I remember, yes. What do you want? What do you want? And they attend to you. So it has been a real positive experience being an MNI. So I'm proud to be.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah.
You talked about it being a very glorious or wonderful experience for you being an MNI.
Yeah.
Has it also paved the way for you in having access to government policies or influencing government policies?
Well, yes. Yes, because I've been a member of many committees, and I know that some of the recommendations and implementation strategies I've profiled have been implemented. Many of them. Well, perhaps I don't want to mention them now, but if you want me, I can give you one or two examples. The Nigerian Navy Military School today, which is at Ikotwen in Akwa Ibom, I was part of the committee that sat for the establishment of that secondary school. I remember very well. I was the executive officer, that's second in command of the NNS Jubilee. That's our base, Nigerian Navy base Jubilee, which is at Ikorabasi in Akwa Ibom State. So that time the Nigerian Navy was given the opportunity to set up a secondary school. So the first instance was when the present Senate President, Senator Akpabio, he was the governor, when some of the buildings, we call it security village. There was a security village in Ikorabasi. We were given some buildings. Then I was the command intelligence officer that time. So when I went back the second time, I've done my course here, and I now went back as the executive officer. So I got to cut the long story short, I got to the base, and then the paper came that we need some buildings, we need to establish the school. So I just flashed back. I said, I was a commander, later Navy captain, when we were given this building and this one. I said, are you sure? I said, yes. So it's okay, take it up. So I went to the office of the secretary to the state government now, then, and the deputy governor. Immediately I entered the office of the secretary to the state government. He saw the badge. I say, officer, come inside. You're MNI? I say, yes. He said, my wife is an MNI. I'm telling you, sit down. What do you want? I said, look, this the place where the Nigerian Navy Military School is now was a former technical college. Yeah. So it was handed over to the Nigerian Navy. So I said, look, they've handed over this school to us and these buildings. this was a time, and I came here as an intelligence officer, and it was Akpabio that was there. That time it was Akpabio has handed over to the one that left now before this new one. So he said, is that it? He said, okay, no problem. Come back to Sude. Everything was done for us, and we got the certificate of occupancy and everything. The school is there tomorrow now, you know. So that's just one. That's one. Numerous. Is it Abuja I want to talk about? Anywhere I go, once I wear the badge, I used to make that joke that, look, even in my pajamas, I put on my badge.
That's interesting to hear. So, how does it feel? What nostalgic feelings do you have each time you come back to the National Institute? Because you said you have been part of, you had come back to be as a director,
the staff, yeah,
and now as the coordinator and chairman of the Crisis Game Planning Committee. So how has it been?
It's homecoming for me. I'm actually proceeding on retirement. That's to be next month.
Wow.
From the Nigerian Navy and the Armed Forces. I've been putting on serving this nation for almost 33 years. So I'm leaving as Rear Admiral. When the notice of retirement came out, and so the DG called me and said, Admiral, this is what I have. I said, yes. I said, okay. Would you like to come back to the institute? I said, yes. So I'm back here now, so as a DS. I like giving back. I like impacting knowledge. And I'm happy when I see grown people when they come here. And then the next 11 months, they've become well modeled, and I believe they're going with a lot of knowledge to go and impact the bigger society in their different organizations. So it's good to be here, and I'm happy to be here.
So what should we expect going forward from you?
Like I told you, we're here to give back. There are so many areas I think we can improve upon on the senior executive course and other courses. God willing, and time on our side, we'll make positive changes in all the necessary documents that guides the senior executive course and other courses by the grace of God.
It's new, it's fresh, it's all about policies and strategies. Watch out for NIPSS Policy TV programs on NTA News 24. Tune in on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, Star Times Channels 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Miss this and miss out on policies that will affect you and our country. Join us.
Before the newly introduced taxes in the FPM, previous attempts at implementing FPM in Nigeria, such as the FPM 2022 and the Value Added Tax, VAT, have been successful in generating revenue for the government, but their impact on the economy has been limited. The new taxes in Nigeria must have been introduced to serve as a great response to the country's economic challenges and needs. It may have some initial challenges as individuals and businesses adjust to the new tax regime. Further to this, there has been some resistance to the new taxes, particularly from small business owners and consumers who are concerned about the impact on their bottom line. It is evident that most of the fiscal policies and potential benefits take a long time to manifest. If all these factors are put into consideration before adopting these taxes, then it is likely that these benefits will be achieved. That concludes our package. Thank you for your time, and before I sign out, remember to be a productive Nigerian. I am Lydia Odijochi. Goodbye.